single day, the world moves forward in an endless rush of noise, routine, and progress. We buy our groceries, we check our phones, we commute to work. But right beneath the surface of our collective routine lies a quiet, staggering reality. Tens of thousands of chairs remain permanently empty at family dinner tables. Daughters, mothers, sisters, and children, gone. Not lost to documented natural disasters, not runaway teenagers who returned home a week later, but human beings who stepped completely out of frame and into a permanent void. Modern society largely looks away. We treat these occurrences as isolated, localized tragedies. But when you aggregate the global data, a terrifying pattern begins to emerge. This is not a series built on speculation or conspiracy. This is a deep dive into cold data, international legal frameworks, and the raw humanity of those left behind. To understand the true scale of this crisis, we must first look at the official record. According to the National Crime Information Center in the United States, 533,936 missing person records were entered into the national database in 2024 alone. In the United Kingdom, the National Crime Agency responds to approximately 330,000 missing incidents every year. In India alone, 868,559 people were reported missing in 2023, and only 53% were ever traced. Two-thirds of those missing were female. Nearly 140,000 were children. The global long-term unresolved figure is estimated in the millions. Statistically, the vast majority of missing person reports are resolved within hours or days. But it is the remaining percentage, the cases that go completely cold year after year, that defy statistical logic. When an adult or a child vanishes without leaving a single digital footprint, cell phone ping, financial transaction, or physical clue, the trajectory points decisively away from a random accident or a voluntary personal choice. It points toward the intervention of an organized, external force. In an era of near-ubiquitous digital surveillance, where street cameras, facial recognition algorithms, and smartphone geolocation logs map our every movement, an absolute permanent disappearance requires an exceptional level of containment. The data suggests that people do not simply dissolve into thin air, they are displaced. The United Nations Palermo Protocol, formerly the Protocol to Prevent, Suppress, and Punish Trafficking in Persons, defines human trafficking as the recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, or receipt of persons by means of threat or use of force, deception, or abuse of power for the purpose of exploitation. That legal definition, ratified by 178 nations, is the international community's acknowledgement that a structured criminal infrastructure exists, specifically designed to move human beings against their will. The International Labor Organization's 2024 report, Profits and Poverty, reveals the financial architecture of this infrastructure in stark detail. Forced labor generates an estimated $236 billion in illicit profits annually. Commercial sexual exploitation alone accounts for $172.8 billion, 73% of the total. These are not the earnings of disorganized opportunists. These are the revenues of a global industry. The recruitment pipeline is sophisticated and adaptive. Fraudulent employment advertisements targeting economically vulnerable populations, deceptive modeling and entertainment contracts, digital grooming through social media platforms, romantic manipulation, what investigators call the lover boy method. Each pipeline is designed to move a human being from a position of trust into a position of complete control, crossing borders where documentation and oversight are weakest. The UNODC 2024 Global Report on Trafficking in Persons documented a 25% increase in detected victims compared to 2019. Children now represent 38% of all detected victims. Women and girls account for 61% of the total. These are the detected cases, the visible fraction of a phenomenon that, by its very nature, operates in darkness. Behind every entry in every national database is a room exactly like this one. A room that has been kept exactly as it was. A bed that has been made every morning for years, for someone who has not come home. Dr. Pauline Boss, emeritus professor at the University of Minnesota and one of the world's foremost authorities on family grief, coined the term ambiguous loss to describe precisely this condition. She defines it as an unclear loss with no official verification of life or death, and therefore no closure. It is, she argues, the most stressful type of loss a human being can experience because there is no proof of finality. Families of the missing do not grieve in the conventional sense. They cannot. They exist in a permanent state of suspended reality, maintaining the missing persons room, keeping their phone number active, setting a place at the table, refusing to use the past tense. The psychological literature describes this as a form of chronic, unresolvable trauma that is fundamentally incompatible with the standard stages of grief. Families search. They print posters. They attend community meetings. They petition governments. They establish foundations. They do not stop. Because stopping would mean accepting an answer they have never been given. For every missing person in a database, there is a family that has been waiting. For years, for decades, for a knock at the door that may never come. The global response to this crisis is real, and it is growing. Interpol's iFamilia database uses DNA kinship analysis to identify unidentified remains across borders. The United Nations Blue Heart Campaign has raised international awareness of trafficking as a human rights emergency. Cross-border intelligence sharing agreements are slowly dismantling the transit corridors that criminal networks depend on. But the infrastructure of exploitation is adaptive, it moves faster than legislation, it exploits every gap in international coordination, and it operates in the spaces between jurisdictions, the borders, the transit zones, the digital gray areas, where oversight is weakest and accountability is most diffuse. The data presented in this episode represents only what has been officially recorded, officially detected, officially acknowledged. The true scale of the phenomenon is, by definition, unknown. What is known is this. Every year, millions of people are reported missing. A significant fraction of them are never found. The systems designed to protect them are underfunded, under-coordinated, and operating against an adversary that is extraordinarily well-financed. The shadows are long, but they are not impenetrable. In our next episode, we map the geography of risk, examining why certain regions, certain demographics, and certain socioeconomic conditions produce disproportionate numbers of missing persons cases. The data reveals a pattern, and patterns can be interrupted. This is Shadows Untraced.